Hello, I would like to talk today about the essay called Reflections on Exile by Edward Said, especially in connection with the Mimic Man. In my earlier video on the Mimic Man, I had referred to the essay, but only one point basically, and then there was request to elaborate on it further. So here I am. The essay Reflections on Exile, which starts with the exile is compelling to think but terrible to experience. This sentence was published originally in 1984 in that very famous magazine called Granta, obviously written by Edward Said. Later, it became a part of a whole book which was published with the title Reflections on Exile in the year 2000. Today, I think it is better to approach Said or start reading Said with Reflections on Exile rather than with Orientalism. Anyway, a few very important points from that essay which will help you uh, read the Mimic Man deeper, and not only Mimic Man, it may help us explain many things that surround ourselves today, different kinds of phenomena. One crucial point that is often missed out in discussions of this reflection and exile is that Said has, in a very subtle way, posited the exile as the other of nationalism. After deconstruction, after post structuralism, after Laka, so on and so forth, we now more or less know that identities is more oppositional, identity is more oppositional, more binary, or more relative than something essential. So each identity is built more on what it is not than what it is, especially in socio-political formation. So nation as a construct depends heavily on its others. Said goes on saying that each nation has its official account of its history, its politics, of course, and geography. These are there, but history is very important. Each nation constructs its history as it suits it. All incidents, all persons of history are not included. For example, at one point of time, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was not a very important part of the official versions of Indian history, but gradually things changed, so on and so forth. So it is the power which determines, or in the American War of Independence, the American First Nations had a lot of crucial roles to play, but these were often played down. But now the things are being recuperated. Anyway, so nations, what we understand is that they constitute an official history and even official heroes and official enemies. So from this official version of the nations about their contours, the exiles are kept out. So exiles are who do not belong to the nation. It is all about belonging. Statelessness is another word that we talk about. More or less the same thing as in exile. So what these people did, Foucault, Laka, Derrida, Said, Spivak to some extent, uh, in 21st century, most theorists are actually building on them, applying these theories in the digital world, or making some other kinds of extensions. So anyway, so you call it diaspora, you call it statelessness, the basic theme is that of the exiles. Then there are extensions also. Anyway, so exiles are also the others of nations. But which nation? Actually every nation. They are exiled by one nation and go as refugee to other nation, another nation where also they are not accepted. So they are neither here nor there. From this again, a positive strain so far as our critical understanding of things are concerned may be deduced. Said says the exile is the best suited person to have an objective understanding of things because they are equally alienated from all cultures, or at least two cultures in any given case. The culture that they belonged to, they have left, and the new culture that they have come to, they cannot relate fully. So, in their case, it is it is more understandable that they will have a kind of more objective view of things. Now, uh, this again, if we relate it to diaspora theory, there is a little modification. In case of diaspora, we'll also talk about generations. The first generation diasporic in any country is generally alienated from the host country's culture. The country that a diasporic leaves, that is his home country, and comes to the host country. So the first generation diasporic is naturally alienated, but the successive or succeeding generations, they get more acclimatized, more accustomed to the host land's culture. Anyway, it is just an additional information. Coming back to the exile, so the point that we have made, 2 points now, that exiles are the others of nations. Secondly, exiles are supposed to have a more objective vision. Then the third point related to the first, which may somewhat contradict the second point, but as Derrida said, contradiction is a virtue. The third point is the exiles also create their own personal histories, even geographies, maybe trajectories of belongings, and that is mostly found in the narrative world. So, Said says here again, of all literary forms, it is the novel, obviously due to its size, due to its breadth, due to its length, it expresses most the exiles' conditions, as well as it helps the exiles to build a new world. This observation from Reflections on Exile, I think, is crucially relevant for the Mimic Man, because here Ralph Singh is trying to recreate his lost world as well as a new world through writing the novel, and even through him, V.S. Naipaul is doing the same, because Naipaul, you remember, is also an exile. There had been differences between Said and Naipaul. I will talk about it in some other video. Bitter Dispatches from the Third World is a most prominent critique of Naipaul by Said. Bitter Dispatches from the Third World, the name of the essay. Anyway, so I think you understand that the writing of the novel is an act, or any other literary form is an act. So we had also spoken about A Far Cry from Africa by Walcott. So the exiles try to give voice to their feelings, as well as recreate their worlds, if they're so talented, by writing. We can take two classic examples from our region. Region means the subcontinent. One is Nirotsi Chaudhuri, whose Autobiography of an Unknown Indian, the first volume, basically created the then East Pakistan, or now Bangladesh, that he had left. In fact, when Nirotsi left it, it was not even Pakistan, East Bengal. But then he left and could never go back finally, so he recreates that land. And then his other autobiography, which he wrote very late, almost when he was, I think, 80, Autobiography of an Unknown Indian, Volume 2, it mostly recreates the India which he had left behind and went to England. Similarly, Taslima Nasreen, After leaving Bangladesh and being exiled, a series of autobiographical writings she has produced. Amar Mebela, Dikhondito, Utal Hawa, etc., etc. They are also partially reconstruction of the land she had left. She may not have looked at it this way, but as we often say, author's views of her works need not be the final one or the only one. Then our business is meaningless. Our students, teachers, etc. So they produce the text. We will not go to the extent of saying that the author is dead. That is risky. But at the same time, we will not also follow the maxim that whatever the author says is the final thing about his or her work. So we'll be in between, in the middle, like Bhava's in betweenness or Aristotle's golden mean. So avoid the extremes. So then we have the pleasure of interpretations. Now, so you may relate it to Joyce, who wrote Ulysses, or Conrad, for example, the classic novelist. The site chooses to speak about or speak of again and again. And then we come to next to on Naipaul himself, the exilic world view of Naipaul. Now we come to another important point, the critical point. Of course, Said himself, he is an Arab Palestinian, that also Christian, not Muslim. So Arab Palestinian Christian living in America. So different degrees of exiles he had to face. He had differences with Yasser Arafat. At the same time, he had recurrent differences with American administration and some group of excessive right-wing people who even threw bomb into his living quarters. Luckily, he got saved. So at one point of time, he was called the professor of terror, but he was a very peace-loving man. He never liked terrorism, but the ideas were radical. He believed that there was no difference between remaining committed to the cause that one believes and then the life of a literature professor. In this regard, possibly he is different from many of the post-structuralists whose approaches are often more textual than actual, if I may say so. Anyway, now Said talks about Eric Auerbach, who is very important. Please remember the name. Auerbach's famous book Mimesis, The Representation of Reality in Western Literature, was written in exile. In this book, Auerbach recreates in a way the entire history of Western literature, right from Odyssey and Genesis, the Bible, to Virginia Woolf. Yes, it is not an encyclopedia. He does not talk about every author. That is impossible. But the major signposts are there. And this was all written from memory when Auerbach was exiled at Istanbul, chased away by the Nazis in his homeland. So exiles have this benefit. Yes, and coming back to our Georg Lukács. Georg Lukács, Said tells us had said that the novel is, a work of transcendental homelessness. And yes, of course, what novel is today, epic was in the earlier world. So Lukács had said, I have told you quite often, that the novel is the epic of a world deserted by God. In epics, we have gods, goddesses, they interact with humans, both in Greco-Roman world and our Indian world, we can say. But in a rational, real world, it's no longer possible that we have gods and goddesses in everyday life. Lukács did not see our TV serials and channels, cinemas. He was based in a more realistic setting. So anyway, so realistically, if we need to have a greater canvas, without faith, then that is given by the novel, not the epic. So here, I would again remind you, as I told in my earlier video on the Mimic Man, that Iliad, Odyssey, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all are about exiles, but then a very important secondary epic also, what we call secondary epic, in the sense that This is not a community's possession but perfected work of art. That is Dante's The Divine Comedy. This was also written when Dante was exiled from Florence. That is what we know from Said. And he also gives contemporary examples of poets like Faiz Ahmed Faiz, then Mahmoud Darwish, and of course T.S. Eliot, then James Joyce, Conrad, etc., who produce very beautiful things when in exile. So, exile has a creative side, a creative potential. Exile has. However, in this essay, he is constantly also reminding us, Said, that no amount of rhetoric, art, or poetry can make up for or take away the actual pain caused by the losses which are brought about by this exile, unsettlement. And we understand this kind of artistic compensations of the conditions of for the conditions of exiles can be had only by people who are talented or even superior to common masses. But the suffering of common masses in day-to-day life, those who are exiles, are actually they beggar description. And even right now we are seeing how people stranded all over the world from other countries, what kind of situation they're facing, and in fact even within one country, from one region to another region. So these were the points. And finally, one very important point, Said was a secular humanist. Secular not in the Indian sense but in the original sense. India, we have started a misinterpretation of secular by saying that it is the equality of all faiths, but secular actually means that no faith, it is almost like atheist. So you have a rational basis of interpretations. But then there is a difference between secular humanism and Marxism. I mean communism. Communism forces it on you, but secular humanists do not like this forcing of rationality on you. It should come naturally. So Said believes that human history, like all secular humanists, cannot be understood by reference to any external feature. Then you explain away everything by saying that all your sufferings are causes of your previous sin, original sin, this and that. Finally, no redemption. So, in the secular sense, so you have to understand human history as a product of human forces. And exile is very much man-made, just as climate change is man-made. It is the otherization of particular groups of men and women by some other group. So it is our problem. If we have to envision a collective human feature, we have to stop this. And yet another important points, which will show that Said was very much aware of the fetishization of exile, if we may say so. In fact, it was alleged that he was making too much of an issue by upholding the exile, and he was not aware of the pitfalls of exile. That is wrong. If you read the essay Reflections on Exile, he says it clearly that at one point of time, exiles may make other people exiles. We are quite familiar with this position, especially in India. Many people, when they are in opposition to any given system, I don't refer to political system here, any given system, they would do the same thing when they go to power, they get the position, of which they were blaming the earlier power. Similarly, the exile is a jealous position, I'd say. So people who become exiles and get some kind of identity or benefit out of it don't want to share it with other exiles. So he gives a telltale example. The Jews were once thought to be, were exiles. Right from the days of Old Testament, we know this. Till the establishment of the Jewish state of Israel. But once it was done, they have been instrumental in exiling Palestinians again and again. Until now, the Jew and Palestinian fight is overtly or covertly ongoing. So, eternal vigilance is the price of democracy. We may end with this aphorism. Always be self-reflexive of ideologies, of fights, and have a human face. That is what Said wants from us.